I was at church with my daughter and son-in-law when a stranger pressed a blue box into my hands and whispered, "You'll need this tonight, Mr. Grant." Before I could ask who she was, she disappeared into the Sunday crowd. I hid the box in my truck and drove home. That night, when I finally opened it, my hands started shaking. Inside was my dead wife's phone, the phone belonging to the wife I lost 1 year ago. At exactly 11:59 p.m., it rang. The voice on the other end changed everything. "Would you open that blue box immediately? Or wait, comment now before I reveal what happened." At 11:59 p.m., trust me, you need to hear this. I was at St. Catherine's when a stranger pressed a blue box into my hands and whispered, "You'll need this tonight." Before I could ask her name, she'd vanished into the Sunday crowd like morning fog through the redwoods. The service had ended 20 minutes earlier. I stood in the parish hall with a styrofoam cup of weak coffee, surrounded by the kind of people who'd known me for 40 years. The Hendersons, the Walkers, old Frank Weatherby, who still brought his walker to every potluck. They meant well. They always meant well. For the past year since Blair died, they'd treated me like porcelain, like one wrong word might shatter whatever was left of Simon Grant. "How are you holding up?" Margaret Henderson asked for the third time that month. Her hand touched my elbow with practiced sympathy. "I'm fine, Margaret, really. I wasn't fine. Nobody who loses their wife of 40 years is fine. But what else could I say? That I still set 2 plates at dinner sometimes. That I kept finding her reading glasses in places she'd never been." Amber stood near the dessert table with Rowan, her husband. My daughter looked polished in her navy dress, her hair pulled back the way Blair used to wear hers. Rowan wore a suit that probably cost more than my truck. They'd driven up from San Francisco yesterday, stayed at the bed and breakfast in town instead of the house. Said they didn't want to impose. "Dad." Amber intercepted me as I headed for a second cup of coffee. "Have you thought about what we discussed?" Her tone was careful. Too careful. "We can talk about it later," I said. "It's been 2 weeks since..." Later, Amber. Rowan appeared at her shoulder, all white teeth and cologne. "Simon, we're just concerned. The property, the taxes, everything. We want to help." I nodded, said something non-committal, and excused myself to talk to Frank about the Giants' chances this season. Behind me, I heard Amber's frustrated sigh. It was a sound I'd been hearing a lot lately. That's when I noticed Sheriff Brennan across the room. Thomas Brennan had been sheriff of Humboldt County for 15 years, broad-shouldered, silver-haired, with the kind of smile that belonged on campaign posters. He caught my eye and raised his coffee cup in salute. "Simon, good to see you out. Sheriff, you know, if you ever need anything at all, you just give me a call." He clapped my shoulder. "We take care of our own around here." Something in his tone felt off, but I couldn't place it. Maybe I was just tired. Maybe grief makes everyone sound suspicious. I was heading toward the exit, ready to go home to the empty house on Grant Family Redwood Preserve when the woman appeared. She was maybe 50, blonde, wearing a plain gray coat that made her forgettable. She moved through the crowd with purpose straight toward me. Before I could react, she'd pressed something into my hands, a blue box, shoebox-sized, surprisingly heavy. "You'll need this tonight," she said. Her voice was low, urgent. 23:59. Don't miss it." "Wait, what?" But she was already gone, absorbed back into the sea of Sunday dresses and sport coats. I scanned the crowd, but she'd disappeared completely. Nobody else seemed to have noticed her at all. The box felt warm in my hands. "Then what's that?" Amber had materialized at my elbow again. Nothing. Just someone left something." I pulled the box closer to my chest. "I'll see you tomorrow, honey. We should talk before we drive back." "Tomorrow." I left before she could argue. The drive home took 30 minutes, my old F-150 rumbling up the mountain roads through stands of ancient redwoods. In my rearview mirror, I caught glimpses of Amber's rental car following, then turning off toward town. She'd wanted to come in. I'd said I was tired. Truth was, I couldn't wait to get inside and open that box. The house stood where it had for 60 years, built by my father, on 50 acres of prime redwood timber. Blair and I had raised Amber here. We'd planted the garden together, built the workshop, carved our initials into the wedding tree on our 20th anniversary. Every room held 40 years of memories, and every memory was a small knife. I set the blue box on the kitchen table, stared at it. The cardboard was unmarked, no writing, no label, just a plain blue box. Inside, nestled in white tissue paper, was Blair's cell phone. My hands started shaking. The police had told me they never found her phone. After the accident, the crash on Highway 101, the car that went over the embankment, they'd recovered her purse, her wallet, her wedding ring. But not her phone. They said it probably got thrown clear, ended up in the river, lost forever. But here it was, and it was on. The screen glowed when I picked it up, fully charged. The wallpaper was our wedding photo from 40 years ago. Blair in her simple white dress, me in my dad's old suit, both of us grinning like idiots in front of St. Catherine's, the same church I'd just left. Everything else had been wiped clean. No contacts, no messages, no apps. Just that photo and a full battery. A small piece of paper had been tucked beneath the phone. I unfolded it with fingers that wouldn't quite cooperate. 2359. Answer when it rings. The handwriting was neat, unfamiliar. Feminine. I looked at the kitchen clock, 6:47 p.m. In 5 hours and 12 minutes, that phone would ring. In 5 hours and 12 minutes, my world would shatter in ways I couldn't yet imagine. I spent those 5 hours falling through a personal hell of questions with no answers. The phone sat on the table like a bomb, and I was just waiting for it to explode. Dinner was out of the question. I heated up leftover stew Blair had made. No, that wasn't right. Blair had been gone a year. I'd made the stew myself 3 days ago, probably from her recipe. I couldn't keep the timeline straight anymore. Couldn't remember which memories belonged to before and which ones I'd constructed after. I dumped the bowl in the sink without tasting it. Instead, I went to my workshop desk and pulled out the file I kept in the bottom drawer. The one I'd read 100 times, but still couldn't make sense of. The official accident report printed on California Highway Patrol letterhead, signed by Detective Stephen Callahan of the Humboldt County Sheriff's Department. Date of incident, November 14, 2024. 1 year ago, almost to the day. Location highway. 3.2 miles north of Mendocino. Vehicle 2019 Toyota Camry registered to Blair Christine Grant. Single vehicle accident. Vehicle left roadway, descended embankment impact with coastal rocks below. Evidence of brake failure. Body initially missing, presumed swept to sea by tidal action. I'd memorized every word, but I read it again anyway. Looking for something I'd missed. Some detail that would explain the phone on my kitchen table. The report went on. 3 days after the crash, a body had been recovered 2 miles down the coast. Female, approximate age 60 to 65, burned beyond recognition. The fire investigators said the car's gas tank had ruptured on impact. The FBI, and I'd never understood why the FBI got involved in a traffic accident, had handled the identification. Dental records, they said. It was Blair. The funeral had been closed casket. Too traumatic, they'd told me. You don't want to remember her that way. I'd never seen my wife's body. I'd stood at St. Catherine's and watched them lower a sealed box into the ground, and I'd never been completely sure she was inside it. I don't know what's happening, Blair, I said to her photograph on the mantel. 40 years old in that picture, laughing at something I'd said while we hiked through the redwoods. But I'm scared. The photo didn't answer. It never did. I thought about calling Raymond Burke. Ray had been my best friend since high school. We'd built houses together, raised our kids together, buried our parents together. If anyone would listen to this insanity without calling the psych ward, it was Ray. But what would I say? Hey Ray, a stranger gave me Blair's phone at church, and it's going to ring at midnight with instructions. I sounded crazy even to myself. The clock crawled forward. 8:00 p.m., then 9:00, then 10:00. I paced. I checked the phone's battery still full. I rehearsed what I'd say when it rang. "Who are you? How did you get this phone? What do you want?" At 11:00 p.m. I made coffee with shaking hands. The old percolator Blair had insisted on keeping the one that made the kitchen smell like Sunday mornings. At 11:30 I sat down at the kitchen table, laid my old .38 revolver next to the phone, just in case of what I didn't know. At 11:55 every second felt like an hour. I watched the clock on the microwave. The glowing green numbers that had marked 1,000 ordinary nights, dinners with Blair, late-night talks, the comfortable silence of 40 years together. 11:58, 11:59. The phone rang. The ringtone was Born to Run, Springsteen Blair's favorite. She used to sing along in the truck off-key and laughing, not caring who heard her. I picked up with a hand that wouldn't stay steady. "Hello!" The voice that answered was wrong. Distorted electronic run through some kind of filter that stripped away everything human. But underneath it, underneath the mechanical distortion, there was something familiar. An emotional cadence I recognized the way you recognize your own heartbeat. Simon Grant. Listen very carefully. Don't trust Amber. Well, don't trust Rowan. Don't trust the police. Your life is in danger. Each sentence hit like a physical blow. I tried to speak, but my throat had closed up. "Who?" I finally managed. "Who is this? How did you—" "I'm sorry." The distorted voice carried genuine anguish. "I wish I could tell you everything, but not yet. Be careful. Trust your instincts." Wait, the line went dead. The microwave clock read 12:00 a.m. exactly. I sat in the midnight silence, still gripping the phone. My daughter's name echoing through my skull with 6 terrible words. Your life is in danger. My own child. My blood. How long had I been living with someone who wanted me dead? I didn't sleep that night. How could I? Instead, I tore through Blair's office like a madman, and what I found made the midnight voice's warning impossible to ignore. The phone first. I went through every menu, every setting, looking for something, anything the stranger might have left behind. Call log empty. Messages empty. Photos just our wedding picture 40 years frozen in time. Someone had wiped everything except that one memory. I sat there at 12:30 a.m. holding a dead woman's phone in a dark kitchen and tried to make sense of it. The warnings echoed, don't trust Amber. Don't trust the police. Your life is in danger. Sleep wasn't going to happen. Blair's home office was at the end of the hall, door closed. I hadn't gone in there much since the funeral. It hurt too much seeing her desk with her reading glasses still folded on top of the woodworking magazine she'd been reading. But tonight, I needed answers more than I needed to protect myself from grief. I pulled out our property deed first. The official document we'd gotten 40 years ago when we bought this place, Grant Family Redwood Preserve, 50 acres, Humboldt County, California. We'd used Blair's parents' inheritance as the down payment, worked our asses off to pay the rest. Built our whole lives here. But there was something clipped to the deed I'd never seen before. A survey request form dated September 15th, 2 years ago, 6 weeks before Blair died. I'd never authorized a survey. Who had? The answer was probably on Blair's laptop. We'd shared the same email account for years. Neither of us had anything to hide. Or so I'd thought. I booted it up, typed in the password we'd always used, Amber 1984, our daughter's birth year. The irony wasn't lost on me. I searched the email for property, survey, sale. What I found made my blood run cold. An email chain from September and October 2 years back. I'd been traveling then, working a big renovation job down in Sacramento, gone for weeks at a time. Blair had been home alone, from Cascade Development Group to Blair Grant subject, re-grant property assessment. Dear Mrs. Grant, thank you for reaching out regarding potential sale of the Grant Redwood Preserve. Based on survey results and current market valuation of coastal redwood properties, We are prepared to offer a preliminary bid of $4.2 million for the full 50 acres. $4.2 million. We understand this is a significant family decision. Our development timeline is flexible, though we would like to break ground within 18 months if possible. We require assurance of family consent before proceeding. Please advise timeline for securing necessary agreements. Best regards. Michael Reeves, Senior Acquisition Specialist, Cascade Development Group. The email was dated September 28th, 5 weeks before Blair's accident. My mind spun. Blair would never sell this land. She loved it here. The redwoods, the creek, the wedding tree where we'd carved our initials 20 years into our marriage. She'd fought off developers before, told them to go to hell in colorful terms I won't repeat. Unless she wasn't actually trying to sell. Unless she was investigating them. I dug deeper. Found bank statements in a folder labeled 2024 records. Cash withdrawals over the 6 months before her death, $8,000 in June. Another $11,000 in August. A final $14,000 in October, 2 weeks before she died. $33,000 withdrawn in cash. No explanation. What was Blair paying for? I searched the email for attorney, lawyer, anything legal. Found a name I didn't recognize, Philip Donovan, Esquire, New York City. I Googled him right there, hands shaking on the keyboard. Criminal defense attorney, specialized in organized crime cases. High-profile clients, 7-figure retainers. Why the hell would my wife need a criminal defense lawyer in New York? The pieces weren't fitting together. They were just multiplying, creating more questions than answers. Blair investigating a development company. Blair withdrawing huge amounts of cash. Blair contacting a mob lawyer. Blair dead in a convenient accident that left no body to examine. Don't trust the police. Detective Callahan had ruled it an accident in under a week. No investigation. Case closed. Move on. Dawn started breaking through the redwoods outside that pale gray light that comes before sunrise in Northern California. I'd been awake for 24 hours straight. My eyes burned, my head pounded, and then I heard gravel crunching in the driveway. I looked out the window, Amber's rental car. But this time she was alone, no Rowan, and she was carrying 2 cups of coffee, smiling like nothing in the world was wrong. Like she hadn't just been accused of wanting me dead. Amber walked in at 8 with coffee and a smile. By the time she left, I knew the midnight voice had been right about everything. She handed me one of those fancy lattes from the artisan cafe in town, the kind with foam art on top. Nothing like the truck stop coffee I'd been drinking for 40 years. Her fingers were warm from the cup. "Morning, Dad. How'd you sleep?" "Fine." I lied, studying her face for any sign she knew I'd been awake all night, tearing through her mother's files. Nothing, just concern. Practiced maybe, but convincing. She settled into the chair at the kitchen table, the same one Blair used to sit in for breakfast, wrapped her manicured hands around her coffee cup, and looked around the room like she was cataloging everything: the chipped countertop, the old percolator, the water stain on the ceiling I'd been meaning to fix. "I've been thinking about our conversation after church," she said. Her tone was casual, but I could hear the rehearsal in it. "This property, Dad, it's too much for one person. I manage fine. But for how long?" She gestured toward the window where morning light filtered through the redwoods. "Winter's coming. The roof needs work. I can see the tarps from the driveway. Those trees that came down in the last storm are still lying out there. The access road's getting worse every year." She wasn't wrong about any of it. The place needed work. 50 acres of timber and a 60-year-old house don't maintain themselves. But that wasn't what this was about. "I've been doing some research." Her voice dropped, got softer, more intimate. "Cascade Development Group reached out to Mom 2 years ago." My coffee cup stopped halfway to my mouth. She knew about the emails. "They're still interested, Dad. $4.2 million. Think about what you could do with that. She leaned forward, earnest now. Wouldn't you could buy a condo in town close to us? Actually see your grandbaby when she's born. Travel. You and Mom always talked about seeing Ireland. Remember Ireland, Blair's dream. We'd been saving for it when she died. You could live comfortably, Amber continued. No more worrying about property taxes or repairs or being out here alone when something goes wrong. Then she deployed the weapon I knew was coming. Blair's memory sharpened to a fine point and aimed straight at my heart. Mom would want you to be comfortable, Dad, not struggling out here by yourself, holding on to something that's become a burden. She'd want you to move forward. The anger rose hot in my throat. How dare she tell me what Blair would want? But I swallowed it down, kept my face neutral, tested her instead. Funny thing, I said, keeping my voice casual. I thought I saw someone watching the property last week, out by the tree line near the old trails. The reaction was tiny, just a flicker. Her eyes widened a fraction, then recovered smooth as glass. Probably just hikers, Dad. You know how many tourists come through for the redwoods. She changed the subject quick. Have you talked to Raymond lately? Why do you ask? Just wondering. He's your closest friend. A careful pause. Sheriff Brennan asked about you at the Rotary Club last week. He's worried about you being out here alone. Another pause. He thinks selling might be wise too, for safety reasons. There it was. The sheriff's name dropped casual as a stone into still water. I didn't commit, didn't argue. Just said, I'll think about it. She stood up, and I saw the frustration flash across her face before she smoothed it away. Don't take too long deciding, Dad. Offers like this don't last forever, and Cascade's schedule is flexible, but they want to move forward within the year. She kissed my cheek at the door. Her perfume smelled like Blair's used to. Think about it, she said. Please, for Mom. I watched her rental car disappear down the access road, then went back to the laptop. Kept searching. At 2 o'clock that afternoon, someone knocked on my door. Through the window, I saw a man in a cheap gray suit badge wallet visible clipped to his belt. My stomach dropped before I even recognized him. Detective Stephen Callahan. Don't trust the police. I opened the door, forced my expression neutral. Detective. Mr. Grant. He had that cop smile, professional but not warm. Sorry to bother you. Mind if I come in for a minute? He was already moving past me before I could answer, settling into the same chair Amber had occupied that morning. Late 40s, thinning brown hair, the kind of face that had interrogated too many people in too many rooms. I'm reopening the investigation into your wife's accident. I sat down across from him, kept my hands steady on the table. Why it was ruled an accident a year ago. New witness came forward. He pulled out a small notebook, flipped it open. He claims they saw another vehicle following your wife that night on Highway 1. Dark sedan, no plates visible. Stayed behind her for at least 5 miles before the crash site. My pulse hammered. Connor. The FBI. Or was this a trap to see what I knew? Did your wife have any enemies? Mr. Grant Callahan's pen was poised over his notebook. Anyone who might want to harm her? No. Any financial troubles, unusual expenses? I thought about the $33,000 in cash withdrawals. No. Any unusual behavior in the weeks before the accident? Mood changes, new friends. Places she went that seemed out of character. I thought about the emails to Cascade, the criminal defense attorney in New York, the property survey she'd never mentioned. Nothing unusual, I said. Blair was fine, same as always. That's when I noticed his watch, Rolex Submariner gleaming on his left wrist. 15 grand minimum, maybe 20. I knew because Blair had priced them once, dreaming about getting me one for our 40th anniversary. How does a county detective afford a $20,000 watch? Callahan stood up, handed me his card. If you remember anything at all, give me a call. He paused at the door, turned back. Oh, Sheriff Brennan wanted me to personally check on you. He's concerned about you being out here alone. Says your family to him through Raymond. After Callahan's unmarked sedan disappeared down the drive, I stood in my kitchen, completely untethered. Can't trust the police. Can't trust my daughter. The sheriff checking up on me through his detective. Who the hell could I trust? Blair's phone buzzed in my pocket. Text from an unknown number. Well done, keeping silent. They're watching you. Only trust Raymond Burke. Call him. Someone was monitoring everything. Someone had just watched me lie to a cop. And whoever they were on my side. The message said, trust Raymond Burke. Within the hour, my oldest friend pulled into my driveway, and I learned that even the people you trust most carry secrets. I called him the second Callahan's car disappeared down the access road. My hands were still shaking from lying to a cop. Simon. Raymond's voice was gravel and concern. Everything okay? You sound... Can you come over? I need to talk. Give me 30 minutes. I spent those 30 minutes pacing the kitchen, rehearsing what I'd say. How much could I reveal? The phone, the warnings, the midnight call, all of it sounded insane, even to me. Raymond's old Ford F-250 rumbled up the drive exactly 28 minutes later. Same truck he'd been driving for 15 years, dented and dependable. We'd built houses together in that truck, hauled lumber and tools, and 40 years of friendship. We sat on the porch. That's where I always felt safest, out in the open, where I could see the tree line, watch the access road. Raymond settled into the chair Blair used to sit in, the one with the view of the redwoods. He looked his age today, late 60s face, weathered by decades of outdoor work and California sun. His eyes were the same, though, sharp and loyal. He wore his Vietnam veteran's jacket. Despite the mild weather, the patches faded but proud. You gonna tell me what's got you spooked? He asked. I pulled Blair's phone from my pocket, set it on the table between us like evidence. Raymond stared at it. Where did you get that? Someone gave it to me, at church. The police said they never found it, after the accident. He looked up at me. Who gave it to you? A woman I didn't recognize. She said I'd need it. I hesitated. And she was right. Someone's been warning me about people I shouldn't trust. What people? I couldn't say Amber's name. Not yet. So I tested him instead. Have you seen anyone around the property lately? Anyone watching? Raymond thought about it. His contractor's mind turning over details the way he used to estimate lumber. Yeah, actually. Last week I thought I saw someone near that big tree. You know, the one where you and Blair carved your initials 20 years ago? The wedding tree. My pulse kicked up. Figured it was just hikers. Raymond continued. We get them all the time on the trails. Why? Just noticing things. Need to be careful. We sat in silence for a minute. 40 years of friendship meant we could do that sit without talking, the quiet, comfortable, instead of awkward. We'd met at a woodworking guild meeting back in 1984, two young guys trying to make it in construction. Found out we'd both served, me Army, him Marines, both of us in Vietnam though, at different times. We'd been best men at each other's weddings, built each other's houses, buried each other's parents. Raymond had been there through all of it with Blair. The funeral, the closed casket I'd never understood, the long nights afterward when I couldn't sleep in our bedroom, when the silence of this house felt like drowning. Amber mentioned something, Raymond said, shifting the conversation, about Cascade making an offer on your land. That true? My jaw tightened. "You've been talking to Amber about my property. She called last week, asked if I thought you'd be willing to sell." He held up his hands. "I told her I had no idea that it was your decision. She said she was worried about you." "I bet she was." "Oh, and my cousin asked about you." Raymond added casual as mentioning the weather. "Sheriff Brennan at the VFW hall last Thursday. Wanted to know if you were doing okay out here alone." Everything stopped. "The sheriff is your cousin?" "Yeah, we grew up together. Went different directions. I did the military thing, then contracting. He went law enforcement. But we're family." He studied my face. "That a problem?" I forced myself to stay calm. Didn't let the suspicion show. "No, just didn't know you were related." We talked more about Blair, about grief, about the property. Raymond offered help the way he always did, genuine and without expectation. "If you need anything, repairs, decisions, whatever, I'm here." That's what friends do. After he left, I stood on the porch and watched his taillights disappear through the redwoods. I wanted to trust him. God, I wanted to trust him. The text had said to, but his cousin was the sheriff, and the midnight voice had said, "Don't trust the police." Inside, I sat at the kitchen table with Blair's phone, turned it over in my hands, examining every inch of it. The case was thick rubber protective. I'd bought it for her 3 years ago after she dropped her phone in the creek. My fingers found a tiny gap along the edge where the case didn't quite sit flush. I worked my thumbnail into it, pried gently. A piece of paper fell out, folded so small I almost missed it. Tissue thin, fragile. I unfolded it with shaking hands, and Blair's handwriting appeared. I'd know it anywhere, the way she looped her letters, the slight slant to the right. 4 words, "The truth is rooted." I stared at those words until they blurred. Then the understanding hit me like a physical blow. The wedding tree, where we'd carved our initials 40 years ago, where Raymond had seen someone watching, where our love had taken root in this soil. Blair had buried the truth where our story began. Throughout the rest of that afternoon, those 4 words consumed my mind. The truth is rooted. I walked to the wedding tree, stood beneath its massive canopy, but I didn't dig. Not yet. Not in daylight when I didn't know who might be watching. By evening, fog rolled in from the coast, turning the redwoods into shadows. I went back to Blair's office and pulled out her journals, the leather-bound ones she'd kept for decades, filled with lists and thoughts and plans. The last 6 months of entries were different, sparse, careful, and scattered throughout the initials PD, followed by times and dates. June 15th, call PD 3 p.m. August 22nd, meeting PD via Zoom. October 10th, documents to PD. I cross-referenced with the emails. Philip Donovan. I Googled him right there, standing at Blair's desk. His website loaded with Manhattan sleekness, Philip Donovan Esco, criminal defense attorney. High-profile cases, white-collar crime, extortion, organized crime defense. Why would my wife need this kind of lawyer? Before I could call, New York headlights swept across my window. 9 o'clock at night. Rowan's rental SUV alone this time, no Amber. My instincts went on alert immediately. He walked in without knocking, all pretense of friendliness gone. "Simon, we need to talk." He sat down at my kitchen table without waiting for an invitation, threw a manila folder down like evidence. "These are Blair's financial records. I had an accountant look them over." He spread out copies of the bank statements, the ones with the cash withdrawals I'd found. "These withdrawals, they're concerning. Unreported income, hidden accounts. The IRS would be very interested." The threat was implicit, but clear. "We can make this into trouble for you." Rowan leaned forward, and his voice dropped to something colder than I'd heard from him before. "Amber's worried about you. We both are. This property is too much. You're not thinking clearly." He pulled out legal documents, power of attorney paperwork already filled out. "Sign this. Let us handle the sale. You keep the money live comfortably. Everyone wins. And if I don't sign, his smile was ice. Old men living alone in isolated woods. Accidents happen all the time. Fires, falls, medical emergencies take too long to reach you out here. He let that sit between us. You could slip in the bathtub, hit your head, lie there for days before anyone finds you. It wasn't implied anymore. It was a direct threat. You have 1 week to decide, Simon. Sign the power of attorney, agree to sell, and we all move forward happily. He stood up, moved toward the door, paused. Oh, and Sheriff Brennan will be checking on you, making sure you're stable, mentally competent to make decisions. After he left, I sat in the silence, anger and fear mixing into something I hadn't felt since Vietnam, the sharp clarity that comes when someone makes it clear they'll kill you if you don't comply. I went to the bedroom, opened the gun safe. Blair's old revolver sat there. She'd kept it for protection. On the property, learned to shoot when I was away on jobs. I loaded it, checked the cylinder. I might be 67, but I wasn't helpless. Back at the desk, I called Donovan's office. Late night, but an answering service picked up. I left an urgent message, my voice steady despite the adrenaline. My name is Simon Grant. My wife was Blair Grant. She's dead. I think my daughter killed her, and I think you know why. At 6 o'clock the next morning, my regular phone rang. Donovan himself. His voice was careful, measured. Mr. Grant, I received your message. I need to know what Blair was investigating. I can't discuss client matters even with family. My wife is dead, possibly murdered. I'm being threatened. I need to know what she found. Long silence. Then, not over the phone, come to New York. Tomorrow, my office, 2 p.m. He gave me an address in Manhattan. Come alone. Don't tell anyone where you're going. I booked an Amtrak ticket Oakland to Penn Station, leaving tonight. Started throwing clothes into a duffel bag. That's when Blair's phone buzzed in my pocket. Text from unknown number, don't go to New York. Too dangerous. They're watching trains and airports. Meet me tonight. The barn. 23:59. Midnight again. The same time as the first call. And this time, whoever was helping me, whoever had been monitoring everything, sending warnings, guiding me through this nightmare, they were going to show themselves. I stood there with my packed bag torn between New York answers and midnight revelations. The barn. Our old barn, where Blair and I had stored equipment, where we'd kissed 40 years ago when we first bought this land. The phone buzzed again. Please trust me. One more time. The barn, tonight. I'll explain everything. I looked at the Amtrak ticket on my desk, looked at Blair's phone, made my decision. New York could wait one more day. I needed to know who was on my side. At 23:59, I walked into that barn expecting answers. What I got was the full, brutal truth about my daughter's crimes and my wife's murder. I'd been watching from my bedroom window since 11:45, lights off, curtains pulled back just enough to see. The barn sat 100 yards across the gravel parking area, our old workshop, where Blair and I used to build furniture together, where we'd kissed 40 years ago when we first bought this land. Fog had rolled in thick from the coast, turning the redwoods into ghost shapes. The kind of fog that muffles sound, makes you question what you're seeing. Part of me thought, this is a trap. Rowan, Navarro's people. They'll be waiting. But another part, the part that had been following breadcrumbs for days, thought, this is it. The person who sent Blair's phone. The answers. At 11:58, I made my decision. Flashlight in my left hand. Blair's revolver in my jacket pocket, loaded, safety off. I crossed the property in darkness, fog, damp against my face, each step on gravel sounding too loud, despite the muffling mist. The barn door was ajar. Wrong. I always locked it. Light glowed inside, not electric, softer. Lantern light. I pushed the door wider, stepped inside, slow. Pulled the gun out, kept it ready. I'm armed, I said to the shadows. Show yourself. A figure stepped out from behind my old workbench. Tall, maybe 6'2". Mid-40s athletic build despite obvious exhaustion. A scar ran down his left cheek, old and white. His right arm was bandaged, the kind of field dressing you do when you can't get to a hospital. He wore a tactical jacket, worn and faded. His hands came up, slow, empty palms out. "Mr. Grant, don't shoot. My name is Connor Hayes. I'm FBI." He reached into his jacket with 2 fingers, pulled out a badge wallet, showed it to me at arm's length. I didn't lower the gun. That could be fake. It could be. His voice was rough, like he'd been awake for days. "But I was in the car behind your wife the night she died. I was supposed to protect her." His voice broke. I failed. I lowered the gun an inch. "You're the other vehicle. The witness." There was no other witness. That was Callahan's story. He was testing you, seeing what you knew. Connor sat down heavily on my workbench, like standing hurt. "Your wife came to us 2.5 years ago. She discovered something on this property. Something that put her in danger." "Discovered what?" Connor's eyes were hollowed out by guilt and exhaustion. "There's a cave system under the north section of your land. Natural limestone caves entrance hidden by brush and fallen trees. Blair noticed activity, strangers at odd hours, tire tracks where nobody should be driving. She investigated on her own first." He shook his head. "Dangerous. But that was Blair. She didn't trust easy." I felt my throat tighten at the past tense, the way this stranger talked about my wife like he'd known her. "She found evidence of a drug storage operation. Industrial scale. They were using your caves as a waypoint, receiving shipments from the coast, holding them before distribution inland. Blair contacted the FBI. Agent Andrea Wallace and I were assigned to the case. My mind was racing, trying to piece it together. The cash withdrawals, the attorney, the emails." "Blair agreed to cooperate," Connor continued. "We worked for 18 months building the case. The operations, run by an organization connected to Gabriel Navarro, big player, extends into 3 states. We needed solid evidence time to map the network." He paused and something darker crossed his face. "Your daughter discovered those caves 5 years ago. She's been renting the space to the organization ever since. Made hundreds of thousands of dollars annually. Rowan handles the money laundering." The words hit me like physical blows. "Your daughter. 5 years. Hundreds of thousands." 6 months before Blair died, she confronted Amber. Gave her a chance to stop, to cooperate, to save herself. Connor's voice was tight. "Amber cried. Promised she'd get out. Blair gave her 2 months to figure it out. Someone tipped off the organization. We suspected a mole in the local police, someone feeding them information. They knew Blair was working with us." "The accident wasn't an accident," Connor said, and his hands clenched into fists. "They forced her off Highway 1. I was supposed to be 3 car lengths back, protocol. I thought we were safe, that they didn't know. I was wrong." His bandaged arm, the scar, the way he moved, like everything hurt. "You were injured. I survived." He said it like an accusation against himself. Blair didn't. Detective Callahan falsified the investigation, ruled it an accident. Case closed in 3 weeks. Connor's jaw worked. "We think Callahan's corrupt. Maybe others. Andrea and I have been working alone outside official channels because we don't know who to trust." Blair hid evidence before she died. She knew something was wrong the last week, she told me. "If something happens to me, Simon will know where to find it." Connor looked at me with desperate hope. "Do you know where she hid it?" I thought of the note. "The truth is rooted. The wedding tree. Our initials carved into bark 40 years ago." I opened my mouth to answer. That's when headlights exploded through the barn's wooden slats. Multiple vehicles, tires on gravel, car doors slamming. Connor's face drained of color. He pulled a phone from his pocket, checked something, cursed. They followed me. He stood up fast, despite the pain. "We need to move. Now." Connor grabbed my arm and pulled me toward the barn's back door. Now, we burst through into fog so thick I could taste the salt from the coast. Behind us, voices erupted, multiple people moving fast. Dad, stop. I just want to talk. Amber's voice, desperate and familiar, cut through the night. Rowan's voice commanding, check the barn. He can't have gone far. Other voices, unfamiliar, dangerous, professional. Connor turned to me in the fog, his face urgent in the dim moonlight filtering through the mist. His hand gripped my shoulder hard enough to bruise. Get to the tree. The wedding tree. Find what Blair hid. Then he was running the other way toward the driveway, shouting loud enough to pull them away from me. Hey, over here. I've got the evidence. Come get it. Gunshots cracked through the fog. 2, 3, 4 shots. The sound punched through my chest like physical blows. My heart seized. Was Connor hit? Was he dying out there because of me, but I was already moving my body, making decisions my brain couldn't process. I ran into the redwood forest I'd known for 40 years. 67 years old, but adrenaline is a hell of a drug. The fog turned everything into shapes, and shadows couldn't see more than 10 feet ahead. But neither could they. And I knew this land. Every trail, every fallen log, every root system that reached up to trip you if you didn't know where to step. I'd explored these woods as a kid, when my dad first bought the property back in the 70s. Walked these paths with Blair for 4 decades. Morning hikes, evening strolls, middle-of-the-night wanderings when sleep wouldn't come. Knew them in daylight and darkness, in rain and drought, in every season. Spring wildflowers, summer heat, autumn fog, winter storms. This forest was mapped in my bones. Behind me, crashing sounds. He went this way. Flashlight beams swept through fog like searchlights scattering in the mist, creating halos of light that made the darkness beyond them even more impenetrable. I dropped behind a massive redwood trunk, 20 feet around, ancient, as the hills, its bark rough and deeply furrowed beneath my palms. The pursuers ran past close enough I could hear their breathing, their muttered curses, the static crackle of a radio. 3 men, maybe 4. They didn't see me. I pressed my back against the bark, felt my heart slamming against my ribs. Sweat soaked through my shirt despite the cold. My breath came in ragged gasps that I tried desperately to quiet. Split up. Rowan's voice carried through the trees. He's old. He can't have gone far. Find him. Old. The word stung more than it should have. But maybe being underestimated was my advantage. I waited, counted to 30. The sounds faded toward the south boundary, the direction most people would run toward the highway toward escape. But I wasn't running away. I was running toward something. Then I moved. The wedding tree stood in the north meadow, clearing maybe a quarter mile from the barn. I knew the way blind could have walked it in my sleep. Through the Douglas fir grove, past the creek crossing, where stepping stones formed a natural bridge around the massive stump of a tree that had fallen in the big storm of '08. My legs burned. My lungs screamed. 67 years old and running for my life through fog-shrouded forest like some kind of action hero. Except action heroes don't stumble over roots, don't have to pause to catch their breath, don't feel their age in every step. But I kept moving. A 300-year-old giant appeared through the fog, its trunk so wide it would take 6 people holding hands to circle it. Our initials were still there, carved into bark that had grown thick and gnarled over 4 decades, S.P.B. when we were young and stupid and thought we'd live forever. I dropped to my knees at the base, started digging with my bare hands. No tools, no shovel, no time. Dirt packed under my fingernails. My fingers hit roots and kept digging. The soil was soft from recent rain, small mercy. Blood mixed with soil as my fingernails tore. The root system was massive redwoods, spread their roots wide and shallow, interweaving with other trees, creating an underground network that connected the entire forest. I had to dig between them, pulling earth away in handfuls, scraping deeper, ignoring the pain. The truth is rooted, buried in the roots. Blair's last message to me. Flashlights in the distance getting closer. Voices carrying through fog. Check the big trees. He loves that wedding tree. I've heard him talk about it. Amber's voice. She knew. Of course she knew. Rowan's voice sharp and certain. There I see a shadow. My hands hit something hard. Not wood, not root. Plastic. A waterproof container stuck tight between two thick roots. I grabbed it, yanked. Roots held it fast. Blair had wedged it deep, made sure it wouldn't shift or surface. Yanked harder. The roots snapped with sounds like gunshots themselves. Dirt exploded around me. The box came free and I nearly fell backward. I clutched the box to my chest. It was heavier than I expected. Solid. Real. Whatever Blair had hidden here, it had been worth dying for. There at the tree, I ran. No plan. No strategy. Just the animal instinct to survive. Crashed through brush that tore at my clothes. Branches whipped my face. Behind me, footsteps pounding, getting closer. A gunshot cracked. Bark exploded off a redwood trunk inches from my head. Splinters stung my face, drew blood. Real danger, real bullets. They weren't trying to scare me, they were trying to kill me. My heart hammered so hard, I thought it might burst. My lungs burned like I'd swallowed fire. Another shot high wild missed, but close enough I heard the bullet zip through fog above my head. I ran like something wounded and desperate, which is exactly what I was. 67 years old with a bad knee and questionable cardiovascular health, running like my life depended on it, because it did. The old logging road appeared through the fog, barely visible, overgrown with brush and young saplings. We hadn't used it in years, not since the county closed off vehicle access. But someone had cleared it recently. Fresh tire tracks in the mud. A vehicle sat there, engine running, headlights cutting fog into visible streams. Passenger door hanging open like an invitation. A woman behind the wheel, her face urgent in the dashboard glow. Get in now. I didn't question it, didn't hesitate. Dove into the passenger seat, still clutching the box. My door wasn't even closed before she hit the gas. Tires sprayed gravel. Behind us, figures burst from the tree line, too late, too slow. I saw Rowan's face in the red glow of taillights, twisted with rage. She drove like she knew these roads in her sleep. No headlights, just moonlight filtering through fog. Took turns I barely remembered existed, old fire roads, forgotten access routes. Hit the main highway and accelerated hard. I sat gasping, bleeding, clutching the box. My hands shook. Blood dripped from my torn fingernails onto the plastic surface. Looked at the driver. Salt and pepper hair pulled back tight. Maybe 50. Sharp features, determined jaw. The woman from church. The one who'd given me the blue box. Andrea Wallace. She said, eyes on the road, checking mirrors constantly. FBI, we need to get you somewhere safe. She drove in silence for a while, taking random turns, doubling back, making sure we weren't followed. My heart rate slowly descended from panic levels to merely terrified. 40 miles later, she pulled into a roadside motel, the kind that takes cash and doesn't ask questions. The Golden Pines Motor Lodge, a relic from the 50s with flickering neon and rooms that opened directly to the parking lot. Room 117, first floor, near the back exit. She parked in shadow, killed the engine, scanned the parking lot for full minutes before moving. Wait here. She went to the office, came back with a key, actual metal key, not a card. Opened the door to 117 and checked inside before signaling me in. I followed, still clutching the box like a lifeline. She locked the door behind us. 3 deadbolts snapped home with decisive finality. Drew the curtains, turned on a single lamp that cast everything in yellow light. The waterproof box sat between us on the faded bedspread, covered in mud and dirt and 40 years of secrets. The plastic was scratched, weathered. How long had it been buried there? Days, weeks, years. Andrea's hands trembled when she looked at it. She sat down heavily on the edge of the bed, suddenly looking older, more worn. Her professional mask cracked just slightly. "And before you open this, Simon Chakum," she said, her voice careful, controlled, like she was defusing a bomb. "There's something you need to know. Something about your wife." She took a shaky breath, met my eyes. "Something that will change everything you thought you knew." The motel room fell silent, except for Andrea's words hanging in the air like smoke I couldn't clear from my lungs. 5 words that rewrote my entire last year. "Blair didn't die, Simon." I stared at her, not comprehending. "What about Blair? What do you mean?" "Simon, what I'm about to tell you." Andrea's hands were shaking. "There's no easy way. Just say it." She took a breath. "Your wife didn't die in that accident." Silence. "What?" "Blair's alive, Simon. She's been alive this whole year." The room tilted. I couldn't breathe. "You're lying." "I buried her. I mourned her for a year." "You buried a Jane Doe, an unclaimed body from the county morgue." I stood up, backed away. "No. The police said..." "But the police were fooled. By us. By the FBI." Andrea stayed seated, letting me process. Blair's car did go over that cliff, but Connor and Blair switched vehicles that night, standard security protocol when moving a source. Connor was driving Blair's car when they forced him off Highway 1. He survived barely. She gestured to where Connor had been hours ago, wounded. Blair escaped in Connor's car. My legs gave out. I sat back down hard on the bed. We staged the death scene immediately. Andrea continued, her voice clinical now, like a case report. "No body found initially, that was true. 3 days later, we placed a Jane Doe from the morgue, recovered from the water, burned beyond recognition. The medical examiner cooperated with us. Closed casket funeral. We insisted it was too traumatic for you to see. You never questioned it." "Why?" My voice cracked. "Why would you?" "Because if they knew Blair was alive, they'd hunt her down, and they'd use you to draw her out. They'd kill you to force her into the open." Andrea leaned forward. "Blair went deep undercover that night. New identity, Elena Rodriguez. She infiltrated Navarro's organization as an accountant. Spent the entire year inside gathering evidence, recording meetings, documenting transactions, building the case from within. I thought I might be sick. She let me suffer. Let me bury an empty coffin. She wanted to tell you every day, but if you knew she was alive, your behavior would change. They were watching you, Simon. Amber was watching you. If your grief wasn't real, they'd know something was wrong. This way, your pain was genuine. You weren't acting. You were safe. Where is she now? Still undercover? Still in danger? But she sent you that phone. She made those calls. The realization hit me like electricity. That voice. The distorted voice. That was Blair. The altered to protect her identity, but yes, she's been watching over you this entire year. Andrea pulled a sealed envelope from the waterproof box. She wrote this a year ago, in case something happened, in case she couldn't tell you herself. My hands trembled as I tore it open. Blair's handwriting, I'd know it anywhere. My dearest Simon, if you're reading this, I'm gone, and you were smart enough, brave enough, to find what I buried. I'm sorry, my love. Sorry for the secrets. Sorry for the danger I've put you in. Sorry I couldn't tell you the truth while I was alive. I discovered what Amber was doing 18 months ago. I wanted to believe I was wrong. Wanted to think our daughter couldn't do such things. But the evidence was undeniable. She's been using our land to facilitate drug trafficking, making hundreds of thousands of dollars while putting our family and legacy at risk. I confronted her. She cried, said she was in too deep with debts from Rowan's failed business ventures. Promised it was almost over. Like a fool, I believed her. I gave her 2 months to extract herself. Instead, she tried to kill me. The first attempt was subtle brake line cut on my truck to look like mechanical failure. I survived only because I happened to take your car that day. The second was more obvious, a break-in while you were visiting the coast. Someone searched my office and tried to make it look like burglary. That's when I knew Amber wouldn't stop. That's when I went to the FBI. Agent Wallace has been my lifeline, and Agent Hayes risked everything to protect us both. If they're helping you now, trust them completely. The USB contains everything. Financial records linking Amber to the trafficking operation, photographs, recordings of conversations, documentation of the cave system and its use. It's enough to put her away for 20 years. But Simon, here's what you need to understand. Amber didn't do this alone. Rowan orchestrated everything. He found the contacts, set up the operation, pressured Amber to participate when she hesitated. And he has connections to Navarro we didn't know about. Dangerous connections. That's why local police can't be trusted. That's why even the FBI is compromised. Sheriff Brennan is on Navarro's payroll. Detective Callahan takes orders directly from him. The journal contains my personal observations and a detailed account of how I discovered everything. Use it however you see fit. I know this will break your heart. I know you'll want to protect Amber despite everything, because that's who you are. Kind, selfless, always seeing the good in people. But please, my love, protect yourself first. Our daughter made her choices. You don't have to suffer for them. I love you. I've loved you every day of the 40 years we've had together. I'm sorry I won't be there to grow old with you, to watch Isabella grow up, if Jordan and Hannah get the baby girl they've been hoping for, to take that trip to the Oregon coast we always talked about. Be strong, be smart, and remember, you've always been the toughest person I know, even when you don't realize it. Forever yours, Blair. I read through tears, the first tears I'd cried since the funeral. Pain and anger and relief and betrayal all tangled together until I couldn't tell them apart. Andrea sat silent, giving me space. Finally, I looked up. She's really alive. She's alive. I can't tell you where for her safety. But Simon, she's been saving your life. Every single day this year. I was still clutching Blair's letter, tears blurring her handwriting, when Andrea's phone lit up with incoming messages. She read them and her face went white. Text from Connor. They're coordinating the hunt. Sheriff Brennan's leading the search. Simon, he's one of them. The corruption goes all the way to the top. My world collapsed again. Or maybe it just kept collapsing, one betrayal stacked on another, until I couldn't tell where the foundation had been. Sheriff Brennan. I heard myself say it, like testing whether the words were real. Raymond's cousin. At church every Sunday. Community pillar. The corruption goes deeper than we thought. Andrea opened her laptop, plugged in the USB drive from Blair's waterproof box. Blair recorded everything while undercover. You need to see this. The screen filled with file folders. Dozens of video files, each labeled with dates and locations. Andrea clicked the first one. Date stamp 3 months ago. A conference room appeared, industrial building, fluorescent lights, cheap paneling. Blair sat at a long table with a laptop open in front of her. I barely recognized her darker hair, different glasses, professional clothes I'd never seen. Elena Rodriguez. At the head of the table sat a man I'd never seen but knew immediately, Gabriel Navarro. Mid-50s, expensive suit, the kind of face that belonged to someone used to being obeyed. Amber sat 3 chairs down, silent, but present. Complicit. Rowan stood near a whiteboard gesturing at financial projections. And there, in full Humboldt County Sheriff uniform, sat Thomas Brennan. My hands curled into fists. The video had audio. Rowan's voice. Quarterly projections show continued growth. The cave storage has increased capacity by 40%. Sheriff Brennan interrupted. The Grant property problem needs a permanent solution. Navarro's voice was cultured, educated. The old man is stubborn. His wife's death didn't scare him sufficiently. "He's my father-in-law," Rowan said quickly. "Give me more time. I can apply the right pressure, financial scrutiny, mental competency questions." Sheriff Brennan leaned back in his chair. "You have 1 week to secure the sale. After that, I handle it my way." Amber shifted uncomfortably but said nothing. Didn't object. Didn't defend me. The sheriff continued. "I've been covering this operation for 5 years. I'm not letting one stubborn old man ruin everything we've built." The video ended. I couldn't speak. Couldn't breathe. The man who'd consoled me at Blair's funeral, who'd checked on me at church, who'd sent Callahan to reopen the investigation as a test. Andrea pulled up financial records. Sheriff Brennan has received $100,000 annually for 5 years. Total $500,000. Paid through a shell company classified as security consulting. She scrolled through bank statements, each transaction carefully documented. Blair's work. Elena Rodriguez's meticulous accounting. His role was comprehensive, Andrea explained. Control all local investigations of suspicious activity. Falsify accident reports like he did for Blair. Protect the operation from state and federal oversight. He even has a mole in the state FBI office. That's why I had to go dark work alone. Raymond doesn't know, I said. Had to say it. Had to believe it. We checked thoroughly. Raymond Burke is clean. But his cousin... Andrea shook her head. Sheriff Brennan sits above Detective Callahan in the department hierarchy. Callahan takes orders directly from him. My best friend's cousin killed my wife. Andrea opened more files. Blair's journal entries typed and dated. I read them in her voice. March 15th, 3 years ago, discovered the cave system today. Natural limestone formations under the north property. Beautiful. Until I saw the tire tracks. September 22nd. 18 months ago, confronted Amber. She cried. Promised it was almost over. I want so desperately to believe her. October 8th. 2 brake line incidents. Someone tried to kill me. Can't ignore this anymore. Must contact authorities. November 10th. Met with FBI agents Wallace and Hayes. They believe me. They'll help. There's hope. The entries continued through the year, documenting meetings, gathering evidence, building the case piece by piece. The final entry was dated 1 week before the accident. Something's wrong. I think they know I'm not who I claim to be. I've hidden everything important under the wedding tree. Simon will know where to find it. If I don't survive this, at least the truth will endure. I love him more than my own life. I hope he can forgive me for what I'm about to do. I read it twice. Understood what Blair had sacrificed, what she'd been willing to lose. Now we need to get this evidence to my boss in Boston, Andrea said. He's the only person in the FBI I trust absolutely. How they're looking for us. Every highway patrol in the county has your description right now. Sheriff told them you're armed and dangerous, possibly mentally unstable from grief. There's another way. I thought of the old logging roads paths Blair and I used to explore. Through the Peterson property connects to Highway 101 20 miles north. Most locals don't even remember it exists. You can guide us. Could do it in my sleep. Andrea pulled out an encrypted phone, made a call. Boss, it's Andrea. Yes, I know I went rogue. I have everything. The entire Blair Grant investigation. Video recordings, financial evidence, corruption at the sheriff level. We need SWAT. Grant property, Humboldt County. 2 hours. We can hold that long. Bring everyone. This involves the local sheriff. She hung up, looked at me across the dingy motel room. We're going back. We're setting a trap. They'll be waiting for us. I know, but it's the only way. We draw them out, take them all at once. FBI SWAT will stage 20 minutes away, move in on my signal. I thought about Blair. 1 year alone in the lion's den. Every risk she'd taken. What do you need me to do? Be the bait. Call Amber. Tell her you found what Blair hid. Say you want to talk. At the house. Andrea ejected the magazine from her service weapon, checked it, slammed it back home with practiced efficiency. "You know this will be dangerous, Simon. They'll come in force. Multiple armed men. Are you sure you want to do this?" I checked the cylinder on my revolver. 6 rounds. I thought of Blair alone for a year in hell, risking everything. "I'm sure. Let's end this." At dawn, I walked back into my own house, as bait, knowing my daughter, my son-in-law, and the sheriff who'd sworn to protect me would follow. What I didn't know was that they already suspected Blair was alive. First light broke gray through the fog as Andrea drove us back along forgotten logging roads. The property appeared out of the mist, like something from a dream or a nightmare I couldn't wake from. Connor was waiting, leaning against the barn despite his injured arm. He looked like hell, but he was operational. Andrea took position in the barn loft with a long-range rifle. Connor moved to the tree line with a tactical radio. FBI SWAT was staging at the Peterson farm 15 minutes away, ready to move on Andrea's signal. My role was simple: be visible, be vulnerable, make the call. Andrea handed me a burner phone. "They can't trace this. One call, then we throw it." I dialed Amber's cell from memory. 4 rings. Then her voice, cautious. "Hello, Amber, it's Dad. Dad, where are you? Everyone's looking for you. They said you..." I cut her off. "I found what your mother hid." Silence on the line. When she spoke again, her voice had changed, carefully, neutral, like she was choosing each word. "What did you find?" "Everything. The recordings, the evidence, all of it." A pause that stretched too long. "Dad, I don't know what you think you found, but come to the house, we need to talk, just you and me." "I don't think that's a good idea right now. Maybe we should meet somewhere public with other people around. At the house, 1 hour. Come alone, Amber." I hung up before she could argue. Andrea's voice crackled through the radio clipped to my belt. "Think she believed you. She's coming." I looked at the empty driveway, the fog-shrouded redwoods. "But she won't come alone." Andrea had rigged my phone to auto-upload video to an FBI cloud server. Anything we recorded would back up in real time even if they took the phone. 45 minutes later, I heard engines in the distance. I stood in the living room lights, undeliberately visible through the windows. The phone sat on the mantel behind a photo frame, recording everything. Connor's voice through the radio. "Multiple vehicles approaching. Count 5. Amber's sedan. Rowan's truck, 2 black SUVs, sheriff's cruiser. Andrea, copy SWAT moving to backup positions. Hold your position." The engines cut. Car doors slammed. Footsteps on the porch, too many footsteps. The door opened without a knock. They walked in like they owned the place, Amber, looking genuinely frightened. Rowan, confident and cold. Detective Callahan, with his hand on his service weapon. 2 men I'd never seen, expensive suits, hard-eyes Navarro's people. And Sheriff Brennan in his full uniform. "Simon." The sheriff's voice was almost gentle. "This has gone too far." I stood my ground in the living room, aware of the phone recording behind me. "You eliminated my wife. Your wife was a federal informant, a traitor to this community." Sheriff Brennan's face showed no remorse. "She chose her side." Rowan stepped forward. "Where is it, old man? The phone, the files, all of it. We know you found the box Blair buried. You took her from me for this land, for money." Rowan actually laughed. "Blair. You think this is about Blair?" Sheriff Brennan held up a hand, cutting him off. "Enough." He turned to me. "Grant, you're going to tell us exactly where Andrea Wallace is hiding. And you're going to tell us where your wife hid the recordings." I let confusion show on my face. "Recordings, there's more than one." The sheriff's smile was cold. "Your wife was very busy this past year. She didn't just document meetings. She recorded private conversations, financial transactions, shipping schedules, everything. Evidence we didn't even know existed until recently." One of Navarro's men spoke for the first time, his voice carrying an accent I couldn't place. We located Connor Hayes at his motel room. He provided information. Eventually, my heart clenched. Connor had been captured. What had they done to him? Sheriff Brennan drew his service weapon, held it steady, pointed at my chest. Last chance, Simon? Where is Elena Rodriguez? I stared at him, genuinely confused. Who? Rowan's eyes widened. He doesn't know. Jesus Christ, he really doesn't know she's alive. Amber finally spoke, her voice breaking. Dad, I'm sorry. I never wanted this to become... Be quiet! The sheriff snapped at her. He stepped closer to me, weapon unwavering. Your wife has been alive this entire year, Simon. Operating under an alias, working inside Navarro's organization, sabotaging us from within. We've been hunting her for months now. She's careful, but she recently made mistakes that led us to the truth. My mind was racing, but I forced my face to stay blank. You're going to call her, Sheriff Brennan continued. Tell her you're in trouble. Draw her out into the open where we can reach her. I played the role of confused old man. I don't know what you're talking about. Blair's gone. I buried her. You buried a Jane Doe from the county morgue. Your wife is very much alive. The sheriff's weapon didn't waver. And you're going to help us find her, or you'll actually join that nameless woman in the ground. The threat hung in the air between us. That's when I smiled, really smiled. Sheriff Brennan saw it, and his eyes narrowed. What's funny, old man? I touched the phone in my pocket, activating the live stream to FBI servers. You won't need to find her. I looked at Amber, saw the confusion in her face. Then at the photo frame where my phone was recording everything. Blair's not hiding anymore. She's already here. The lights went out, and my world exploded into chaos. And through the smoke, the flashbangs and the gunfire, my wife, my supposedly gone wife, walked back into my life. She's already here, I'd said. Sheriff Brennan's face twisted in confusion. What are you? The lights cut. Every bulb in the house went dark at once, Andrea at the circuit breaker, shouting, movement in the darkness. Then the windows exploded inward, with objects that hit the floor and detonated. Boom, boom, flashbangs. The world turned white hot, and my ears rang with sound that wasn't sound anymore, just pressure that made my skull feel like it would crack. Through the blinding light and the ringing, a voice amplified by loudspeaker, Federal agents, everyone on the ground, hands where we can see them. Gunfire erupted. Navarro's men returning fire muzzle flashes, cutting through smoke and darkness like strobes. I hit the floor, instinct taking over. My ears felt packed with cotton. I couldn't see through the smoke, couldn't orient myself. Connor's voice, crackling through someone's radio. Go, go, go! So decided anyone is The front and back doors burst open simultaneously. Red laser dots sliced through the smoke like lightsabers. Professional voices calm despite the chaos. The clear, 2 suspects back hallway. Cover left. I crawled toward where I thought the kitchen was, away from the crossfire. My hands found the cool tile floor. One of Navarro's men staggered past me, weapon raised, swinging toward me. Time slowed. I was unarmed on the floor, helpless. Before I could even flinch, bang! The man went down hard, taken from behind. His weapon clattered across the floor and disappeared into smoke. A figure stepped over his body, backlit by muzzle flashes that turned the smoke orange and red. The figure moved with practiced efficiency, weapons sweeping the room, checking corners like someone who'd done this 1,000 times. The figure lowered their weapon, reached up, pulled off a tactical hood. Short, dark hair where there had been long auburn waves. A fresh scar running down the left cheek, angry and red. Thinner than I remembered, gaunt even. The weight of a year underground, visible in every sharp angle. Harder. Older. Eyes that had seen things they shouldn't have. But unmistakable, unbelievable, impossible. Blair, my wife, my dead wife. I froze on the kitchen floor, my brain unable to process what my eyes were seeing. This wasn't real. couldn't be real. I'd buried her, sat through her funeral, spent a year grieving. This was shock trauma, my mind breaking under pressure. She extended her hand toward me, but her weapon was pointed past me, still ready, still vigilant. "Get away from my husband." Her voice. God, her voice. Real. Alive. Not distorted by a phone line this time. A warning shot cracked past Sheriff Brennan as he turned toward us, his service weapon rising. He staggered back, hands going up instinctively. Blair's voice, her real voice, no distortion, definitely her, the voice I'd heard for 40 years, cut through the chaos. "Hello, Simon. Sorry I'm late." Time stopped. The gunfire, the shouting, the chaos, all of it faded to background noise. I couldn't move, couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. A year of grief, of anger, of loss, of agonizing questions, colliding with an impossible reality standing 3 feet from me. My lips moved, but no sound came out. Blair knelt beside me, weapon still trained on the sheriff with the ease of someone who'd become intimately familiar with violence. "Are you hurt?" My voice came out broken, barely a whisper. "You're alive." Her eyes filled with tears, the first crack in her tactical armor. "I'm alive. I'm here. I'm so sorry, Simon. I'm so sorry. You let me bury you." The words came out like an accusation, like a prayer, like a sob. "I know. God, I know. It was the only way to keep you safe." Around us, FBI agents in tactical gear were securing the scene, professional and efficient despite the chaos. Zip-tie cuffs, Miranda rights, the choreography of a federal operation executed to perfection. Sheriff Brennan recognized her, his face draining of all color. "Elena, you're supposed to be..." Blair stood helping me to my feet with her free hand. Her grip was iron strong. "Elena Rodriguez died when you tried to eliminate her. Blair Grant survived." The sheriff's face collapsed. Everything he'd worked for, every plan, every payoff crumbling in real time. He drew his service weapon with desperate, jerky speed, but he didn't aim it at Blair. He aimed it at me. If he couldn't have Blair, he'd eliminate her husband. One last act of spite. One final way to hurt her. His finger tightened on the trigger. Before he could fire, a figure tackled him from the side with the force of 40 years of betrayed friendship. Raymond Burke, who'd come with the FBI, who'd been briefed on everything, who'd come to save his best friend and confront his traitorous cousin. "Schno!" Raymond's cry was raw betrayal, made sound, decades of trust shattering in a single syllable. They grappled, 2 men in their 60s fighting like they were 20 again. The weapon caught between them. It discharged, bang, the bullet punching into the ceiling, raining plaster down on everyone. Raymond's fist connected with his cousin's jaw with a sickening crack, 40 years of brotherhood ending in violence. "He was my friend. He was my friend. How could you do this?" FBI agents pulled them apart. Sheriff Brennan was forced to the ground, face pressed into the hardwood. He'd walked across 100 Sunday dinners, hands cuffed behind his back with his own handcuffs. He was still shouting threats as they hauled him up, spittle flying. "You don't know who you're dealing with. Navarro will come for all of you, every last one of you." An agent, young professional, completely unfazed, cut him off. "Gabriel Navarro is being apprehended right now in San Diego. Simultaneous raids across 3 states, 17 locations. It's over, Sheriff. It's all over." The fight went out of Brennan like air from a punctured tire. Detective Callahan had his hands up, surrendering, voice high and desperate. "I'll cooperate. I'll tell you everything. I was just following orders. He made me do it." An agent grabbed him, spun him around, cuffed him. "Save it for your lawyer." The 2 Navarro men were down alive, but wounded agents securing them with practiced efficiency. One groaned. The other was unconscious, blood pooling beneath him. Amber and Rowan sat against the wall in handcuffs, both in shock, both looking small and defeated. Amber stared at Blair like she was seeing a ghost, which in a way she was. Mom, you're..." You're alive. How are you alive? Blair didn't look at her daughter. She stayed focused on me, helped me fully to my feet, steadied me when my legs threatened to give out. We stood facing each other. 10 feet of space. An entire year between us. A lifetime of questions in the air. FBI agents processed the scene around us, photographs, evidence collection statements, but I only saw Blair. She stepped forward hesitantly, like approaching a wounded animal. I know you're angry. I know what I did to you is unforgivable. Letting you think I was dead. Letting you grieve. Letting you suffer alone. But Simon, you're alive. That's all that mattered to me. Keeping you alive. Every day. Every hour. That was the only thing that kept me going. I closed the distance in 3 steps. 40 years of love collided with 1 year of loss as I pulled her into my arms. She collapsed against me, sobbed deep, racking sobs that shook her entire body. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I wanted to tell you. God, I wanted to tell you every single day. I held her, couldn't speak, could only hold her. She was real, flesh and bone, warm, alive, solid. The weight of her against me was the most real thing I'd felt in a year. Her hair smelled different, unfamiliar shampoo. The body in my arms was thinner, harder, changed. But it was her. I whispered into her hair, my voice breaking. You let me bury you. I sat at your funeral. I spoke at your funeral. I told everyone how much I loved you while you were alive somewhere. I know. I had to keep you safe. If they'd known you didn't know, if they'd suspected you knew anything, they would have eliminated you immediately. I grieved you for a year, and I know. God, Simon, I know. I watched from a distance when I could. Every time you visited the wedding tree, every time you sat on the porch alone, it destroyed me, but it kept you alive. We stood locked together while the chaos continued around us. My hands gripped her tactical vest, like I was afraid she'd disappear if I let go. Maybe she would. Maybe this was all a hallucination, born of trauma and desperation. Connor limped over his injured arm, properly bandaged now. She saved all of us, Simon. Every day this year, she risked everything. Wore a wire into meetings with Navarro himself. Recorded everything. She's the bravest person I've ever worked with. Andrea approached, holstering her weapon. Her professional mask finally cracking into something human. She's the bravest person I've ever known. Period. What she did, most agents wouldn't last a week undercover like that. She lasted a year. Dawn was truly breaking now. Light streamed through the shattered windows, cutting through the clearing, smoke painting everything gold and red. Morning arriving to witness the end of the nightmare. Sheriff Brennan was being let out in chains, still muttering threats nobody listened to anymore. Raymond sat on the porch steps, head in his hands, shoulders shaking with sobs. 40 years of family loyalty destroyed in one night. His cousin, his blood, the man he'd trusted with everything. I released Blair long enough to go to him. Raymond. He looked up, face wet with tears. I didn't know Simon. I swear I didn't know. My own cousin. My own blood. I know you didn't. He was at my house every Sunday, every holiday. I thought he was a good man. So did I. We stood there together, 2 old men who'd been betrayed by people they loved, held up only by the fact that we still had each other. Amber called from where she sat cuffed against the wall, her voice small and desperate. Mom, please. Can we talk? Please. Blair finally turned to look at our daughter. Her face was hard as granite, cold as winter. There was no forgiveness there yet. Maybe there never would be. You helped them, Amber. You rented them the cave space. You took their money. You helped them store narcotics on your father's land. You knew what they were doing and you did it anyway. I didn't know they'd try to hurt you. You thought what that dealing with criminals would end well, that Rowan's debts would just disappear. Amber had no answer. Neither did I. Blair stood in the growing daylight, her hand tight in mine as FBI agents led our daughter toward a waiting vehicle. Amber in handcuffs looked back at her mother one last time. I didn't know you were alive. I swear I didn't know. If I'd known, Blair's voice cut through the morning air, final and absolute. If you'd known, would it have changed anything? Would you have stopped? Or would you have just been more careful? Amber's silence was answer enough. They loaded her into the vehicle. Rowan, after the raid with my daughter in handcuffs and my wife returned from the grave, I had to decide what forgiveness meant and whether I had any left to give. In the hours after Blair walked back into my life, the world became a blur of federal agents, evidence collection, and official statements. Multiple FBI vehicles lined the access road. Yellow crime scene tape cordoned off sections of the property. My home for 40 years had become a federal crime scene. Simon and Blair sat on the porch steps, not touching but close. She kept a careful distance, understanding I needed time to process the impossible. She didn't leave, but she didn't push. Connor was being treated by paramedics near one of the FBI vehicles, his injured arm properly bandaged now. I walked over. "They got me at the motel," he explained, his voice rough. But I only gave them enough misinformation to buy time. Told them Andrea was headed south toward San Francisco. Let them chase ghosts while we set the trap. Andrea stood near the command vehicle on her phone with her supervisor in Boston. When she hung up, she looked relieved. "Broke protocol," she told me, but also broke the case. My boss said we'll discuss it later. That's FBI speak for, "You're not getting fired." Sheriff Brennan was being loaded into a federal transport vehicle, still muttering threats. "My lawyers will tear this apart. You people don't know who Navarro's connected to." An agent closed the door on him. "Save it for the arraignment." Detective Callahan sat in another vehicle, cooperating fully. Through the open window, I heard him giving his statement, naming names, pointing to everyone. "I just followed orders, the sheriff's orders. He's the one who planned Blair Grant's, who arranged what happened to her. He gave the orders." The two men from Navarro's organization were in custody, lawyered up, saying nothing. Raymond Burke sat apart from everyone on a fallen log near the tree line, his head in his hands. I walked over. "Ray." He looked up. His eyes were red-rimmed. "My cousin Simon. We grew up together. I vouched for him my whole life. I brought him into your world." I sat down beside him. "You didn't know. I should have known. I'm supposed to be your friend and I..." He couldn't finish. "When it mattered, you chose right. You tackled him, saved my life." Raymond's voice broke. "Some family isn't worth protecting. You protected the family that matters. Me. Blair. That's what counts." An FBI agent approached us. "Mr. Grant, your daughter is asking to speak with you." Blair tensed when she heard it. "You don't have to." "Yes," I said. "I do." I walked to the FBI vehicle where Amber sat in the back seat, hands cuffed in front of her. An agent opened the door, stood nearby, but gave us privacy. Amber's face was tear-streaked, her makeup ruined. She looked younger than her 36 years. "Dad, please, I need you to know what?" My voice was flat. That you used the land your father spent 40 years protecting for trafficking operations, that you stood by while they tried to eliminate your mother. I didn't know Mom was alive." The words came out in a sob. "I swear on everything I didn't know." "But you knew about the operation, the caves, the money." She collapsed inward. Rowan found the caves 5 years ago. He said it was temporary, just until we paid off his business debts. I didn't know what to do. He said they'd eliminate us both if we tried to leave. When Mom discovered everything 18 months ago, she was furious, so disappointed. Amber's voice cracked. I promised her I'd stop. I meant to, but Rowan said it was too late, that we were in too deep. Then Mom passed. At least I thought she had. And I thought it was my fault somehow, that I'd caused it. She looked at me with desperate eyes. I never wanted her gone, Dad. Never wanted you hurt. I was just scared and stupid and weak. I studied the face of my daughter, the child I'd raised, the stranger she'd become. Did you know they planned to eliminate me? Not at first. When Rowan started talking about guardianship, I thought he just wanted to manage your affairs. She swallowed hard. But last week I overheard him and the sheriff talking. They said, permanent solution. I knew what that meant. I told myself I'd warn you, find a way to get you out. But I didn't. I just didn't. Tears streamed down her face. I chose wrong every single time. I chose money over family. I chose Rowan over you and Mom. I don't deserve forgiveness. I know that. But Dad, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I looked at her, really looked at her, seeing both the child and the stranger. I don't know if I can forgive you, Amber. Maybe someday, but not today. Not for a long time. I stood to leave. Is Mom really okay? Amber's voice was small. Is she safe? I looked back at Blair waiting on the porch. Your mother survived a year in hell because of what you did, because of the choices you made. You'll have plenty of time in prison to think about that. I walked away without looking back. Dad, please, Dad. I returned to Blair. She took my hand. How do you feel? Feels like I just buried my daughter and my wife, and only one of them came back. Blair's hand tightened in mine as we walked toward Andrea's vehicle. FBI would need formal statements, depositions, hours of explanation. Behind us, our home of 40 years was a crime scene. Ahead, an uncertain future. What happens now? I asked. Blair looked at the property, at the redwoods we both loved, at the life we'd built and nearly lost. Now, she said softly, we find out if we can rebuild what they tried to destroy. 3 months after Blair returned from the grave, justice was delivered in federal court. But justice and healing, I learned, are two very different things. We sat in the federal courthouse in San Francisco for the final sentencing hearings. The results of 3 months of trials, Sheriff Brennan received 25 years federal prison. Conspiracy, extortion, facilitating drug trafficking, corruption. No parole eligibility for 20 years. He'd be 90 before he saw daylight as a free man. Detective Stephen Callahan got 18 years. He'd cooperated, testified against the sheriff. Evidence tampering, obstruction of justice, accessory to conspiracy. His testimony had been crucial. Gabriel Navarro was extradited to 3 countries. Life sentence in Mexico. Additional charges pending in Colombia and the United States. He'd spend the rest of his life in prison, just in different cells. Rowan Morrison received 22 years federal. He'd refused all cooperation, shown no remorse. Money laundering, drug trafficking, conspiracy. The judge had been particularly harsh because of his complete lack of contrition. Amber got 12 years federal. She'd testified against Rowan, cooperated fully with prosecutors. Reduced charges, drug trafficking, conspiracy, obstruction. Eligible for parole after 8 years with good behavior. Outside the courthouse, media cameras swarmed. Blair and I avoided them, slipping out through a side entrance Andrea had arranged. The property had been officially cleared. The judge ruled that Grant Redwood Preserve was legally clean, no asset forfeiture, no government claims. Conservation groups immediately contacted us with purchase offers. I declined them all. It's not for sale, never was. Several environmental organizations proposed partnerships, instead educational programs, conservation easements. Blair and I were considering those. The house felt different when we returned after the sentencing. Lighter somehow. The crime scene tape was long gone, everything professionally cleaned. But the memories remained. Our relationship was rebuilding slowly, carefully. We shared a bed again, but some nights there was still distance between us. Trust was being reconstructed brick by brick. Blair was patient with my process. Some nights I'd wake, suddenly reach for her in a moment of panic. Is she real? Is she really here? She was always there. I'm here. I'm real. I'm not going anywhere. We were in therapy, both individual and couples counseling, working through trauma that didn't have easy answers. I had nightmares about losing Blair again, about Amber's choices, about standing at that closed casket believing the lie. Blair had her own nightmares about the year undercover, the things she'd witnessed, the person she'd had to become as Elena Rodriguez. We were different people than we'd been a year ago. Our marriage wasn't the same as before, but we were finding a new normal, a new way to love each other. It was harder in some ways, deeper in others. The week after Amber's sentencing, an envelope arrived with a prison postmark. Inside, a single-page letter in Amber's handwriting. Dad, I know I don't deserve to ask, but would you come visit me? I need to see you, please. Blair read it over my shoulder. That's your choice, she said. I can't tell you what to do. For 3 days, that letter sat on our kitchen table. On the 4th morning, I made my decision. The Federal Women's Correctional Facility sat 3 hours north through Redwood Country. I drove alone, thinking about 40 years of fatherhood and wondering where I'd failed. Blair had offered to come. I'd declined. This was something I needed to do alone. The drive took me through forests I'd known my whole life, past trees older than the country itself. I thought about Amber as a little girl, maybe 5 years old, holding my hand, as I taught her to identify redwoods by their bark. See the deep grooves, honey like nature's fingerprints. I remembered her first day of kindergarten, how she'd gripped my hand so tight. Don't leave me, Daddy. I remembered walking her down the aisle at her wedding to Rowan. She'd been 27, beautiful, happy, or so I'd thought. Where had it gone wrong? Had I failed her somehow as a father? Blair said no, said Amber made her own choices. But the doubt was there, persistent as fog. The prison was exactly what I'd expected, sterile, institutional, designed to remove all traces of humanity. Security checks, metal detectors, forms to fill out in triplicate. The visiting room had harsh fluorescent lighting that made everyone look sick. Tables bolted to the floor. Other families scattered around, children visiting mothers, wives visiting daughters. Quiet desperation in every corner. They brought Amber in wearing an orange jumpsuit. She'd lost weight. Her hair was longer, pulled back in a simple ponytail. No makeup, no designer clothes. She looked younger somehow. Vulnerable in a way I hadn't seen since she was a child. We sat across from each other at a metal table, a glass partition between us, phones to communicate. Like visiting someone in a hospital isolation ward. Amber picked up her phone with trembling hands. Dad, you came. I didn't think you would. I almost didn't. Silence stretched between us, both of us struggling for words. How's Mom? She's home, she's recovering. Tears filled Amber's eyes. I don't deserve to ask about her. I know that. No, and I said, you don't. The honesty was brutal, but necessary. I think about what I did every day. Amber said, her voice breaking. Every hour. What I almost did to you. What I helped them do to Mom. Good, you should. I've been taking classes, GED program, working toward my diploma, and therapy twice a week, trying to understand how I became this person. She swallowed hard. The therapist says Rowan manipulated me, that I was vulnerable because of the debt, the pressure. But that's not an excuse. I made choices. Bad ones. Yes, you did. Do you think... She couldn't finish at first. Do you think you'll ever forgive me? I looked at my daughter through bulletproof glass. I don't know. Ask me in 12 years. But then something shifted. Some small opening. You're still my daughter, I said. I don't know what that means anymore. But it's true. Her face crumpled. I'll spend every day trying to become the person you can be proud of again. Then do it. Become that person. Earn it. I set the boundaries clearly. When you get out in 12 years, maybe we can talk about rebuilding something. Maybe. But you'll have to prove you've changed. Really changed. Will you come visit again? I don't know. Maybe. One step at a time. I stood up to leave, set the phone down. Amber was still holding hers, tears streaming. Dad! I stopped. Looked back. Tell Mom I'm sorry. I know she won't believe me. I know it doesn't matter, but tell her. I nodded, said nothing, turned away. I walked out of that visiting room without looking back. On the highway home, I called Blair. How did it go? She asked, her voice careful. I watched the redwoods blur past my window. Thought about the daughter I'd lost and the wife I'd found again. I don't know, I admitted. I went, I listened, I set boundaries, but I don't know if healing is even possible. That's a start, Blair said softly. Small steps, Simon. That's all we can do. 6 months after justice was delivered, we began the harder work rebuilding not just the property, but our lives, our marriage, and our hope for the future. We hired Jordan and Hannah Ellis in early spring. Late 20s, married 2 years, they'd met at an environmental studies program and shared a passion for sustainable forestry. Watching them work the land together reminded Blair of us at that age, idealistic in love, believing we could make a difference. The property was transforming into something new. We called it the Grant Redwood Preserve, where history meets future. We'd built nature trails through the old-growth forest, installed educational signs about the redwood ecosystem. The barn where everything had come to a head, that November night became a small visitor center. My workshop became a space where I taught woodworking to anyone interested in traditional carpentry. Blair led guided tours, her year of forced silence making her passionate about education and truth. She knew these trees, this land, in ways she never had before. The cave system was sealed permanently by the Army Corps of Engineers. Concrete and rebar a professional closure. Blair had watched the process, standing silent as they poured the final layer. That chapter's closed, she'd said. Literally, the business grew naturally. We'd started with 10 or 15 visitors a week. Now we regularly hosted 50 or 60. School groups booked field trips. Conservation organizations used our meeting space. For the first time in years, the property was financially stable. Modest income from tours and workshops, plus a grant from the California Conservation Fund. Enough to maintain the land and pay Jordan and Hannah a fair wage. Raymond Burke was still helping with construction, building wooden walkways through sensitive areas, creating accessibility without damaging the ecosystem. He'd found purpose in creating something good from tragedy. He never mentioned his cousin anymore, had cut off all contact. His contribution was through building, not talking. The church community had rallied after the initial shock. Many apologized for trusting the sheriff. Some struggled with what they saw as Blair's deception, the year of letting them believe she was gone. But mostly there was relief that the corruption had been exposed, that justice had been served. Our marriage was truly healing. We slept soundly in the same bed now, reaching for each other naturally in the night. Laughter had returned to the house, small moments that felt like miracles. Blair cooked again, something she'd loved, but couldn't risk during her year undercover. I worked with my hands, teaching Jordan the woodworking techniques my father had taught me. Small joys accumulated, Blair planting a new garden while I helped dig. Morning coffee together on the porch, watching mist rise from the redwoods. Evening walks across property we'd nearly lost. But the scars remained. Blair sometimes woke from nightmares fragments of her year, as Elena Rodriguez things she'd witnessed, choices she'd had to make. I occasionally felt anger surge up, a year of grief stolen from me, a year of lies even if they'd been necessary. We worked through it together. Therapy helped. Jordan and Hannah had become like family. We shared dinner every Sunday. Last month, Hannah had pulled us aside with news she was pregnant, due in spring. "And we want to ask you something," Jordan had said, Hannah's hand in his. "Would you be honorary grandparents? We don't have family nearby, and you two? You've been everything to us." Blair had cried. So had I. A new generation, new hope. We were clearing brush near the wedding tree when Blair stopped her hand on the bark, where we'd carved our initials 40 years ago. Time had worn them soft, but they were still visible, S+B. She traced the letters with her fingers, and I saw tears on her cheeks. "We made it," she whispered. 40 years ago, we promised forever. And somehow, despite everything, forever found us. A year after Blair came back from the dead, we stood where it all began. November again. 2 years since the blue box. 2 years since the world thought my wife died on this stretch of Highway 1, where her car went over the cliff, and Connor Hayes, driving that night, nearly lost his life saving hers. We placed a simple granite marker at the overlook. The inscription read, "Elena Rodriguez, 2023-2024. She deserves to be remembered," Blair said quietly, her hand resting on the stone. "Elena saved 2 lives, mine and yours." I nodded. Elena Rodriguez had died so we could live. The alias, the undercover year, the recordings that brought down Navarro and exposed the corruption. It all started here at this cliff with a staged death and a desperate gamble for justice. We stood at the edge, the Pacific roaring below, and Blair turned to me. "This is where my old life ended, where I became someone else. This is where you saved us both," I said. 2 years since the investigation began. 1 year since I received that phone. 1 year since Blair emerged from the shadows. 6 months since the trials ended. We'd built a new life from the ashes of the old one, not the same life, but something deeper, something earned. I'm 68 now. Blair is 66. Our marriage isn't built on innocence anymore. It's built on truth, on understanding, on forgiveness that didn't come easy but came honest. The property thrives. Over 100 visitors each week now. We were featured in California Conservation magazine last month. 2 additional educational programs launched this fall. And 6 weeks ago, Jordan and Hannah welcomed Isabella, named after Blair's mother, into the world. I teach woodworking classes for kids on Saturday mornings. Blair speaks at environmental conferences. The land that once hid a drug operation now protects a legacy. Raymond is dating Ruth from church. They met at the Wednesday potluck. He smiles more now. Amber writes every month from prison. I read every letter. Some I answer, some I don't. But I read them all. We have time now, Blair and me. No more secrets. No more lies. Just the years we have left, and we're spending them the way we choose. Maintaining the preserve. Watching Isabella grow. Planning a trip up the Oregon coast next spring. Small dreams that feel enormous because they're ours and they're real. Blair took my hand as we walked back to the truck. "You know what I've been thinking? What's that? Endings and beginnings are the same thing. Just depends on where you're standing." I looked back at the granite marker, at the name carved into stone at the ocean beyond. Elena Rodriguez had ended here. But Blair Grant, my Blair, had begun. We drove home as the sun set over the redwoods, the road winding through shadows and light. And I realized something I hadn't felt in 2 years. Peace. Not the kind that comes from forgetting, the kind that comes from remembering everything and choosing to keep going anyway. The future stretched ahead of us, uncertain and wide open. And for the first time in a long time, that didn't scare me. It felt like home. They say you can't teach an old dog new tricks. They're wrong. At 68, I've learned more about life, love, and courage than in all 67 years before combined. Society writes people my age off, thinks we're fragile, obsolete, ready to be managed. I took down a drug cartel, outsmarted corrupt cops, and survived a manhunt on my own land. Age isn't weakness. It's accumulated strength, knowledge, stubbornness. I'm 68 years old, and I just rebuilt my life from ashes. Tell me again that old dogs can't learn new tricks. I lost my wife, buried her, grieved for a year. Except I didn't lose her at all. Loss taught me that reality isn't always what it appears to be. The year I spent grieving wasn't wasted. It kept Blair alive by keeping me safe. Sometimes loss is sacrifice in disguise. My daughter betrayed me, tried to steal my land, helped kill her mother, or so she thought. Family isn't sacred just because of blood. Family must be earned, maintained, respected. I love Amber. I probably always will. But love doesn't mean trust. Not anymore. Real family. That's Raymond, who chose friendship over blood. Jordan and Hannah, who chose to stay. The truth really was rooted in the land, in love, in sacrifice. Blair spent a year living a lie to protect a greater truth. Truth isn't always black and white. Sometimes it's gray, complicated, messy. But it's still worth fighting for even when that fight breaks you. Justice is cold comfort when you've lost everything. But it matters. Sheriff Brennan sitting in prison matters. Navarro extradited matters. Not for revenge, but to stop the next victim, the next family destroyed. 40 years of marriage taught me one thing. Love alone isn't enough. Love needs trust. Needs truth, needs sacrifice. Blair and I built our marriage on comfort. We're rebuilding it on honesty. It's harder, it's deeper, it's more real. This land isn't mine. I'm just its temporary steward. These redwoods were here 300 years before me. They'll be here 300 years after. Legacy isn't about ownership. It's about what you protect for the next generation. Isabella will grow up visiting these trees. That's legacy. Evening now. Blair and I sit on the porch. She leans her head against my shoulder. Coffee grows cold in our hands. The redwood forest darkens in the dusk. Wind, birds finding roosts, the distant creek. Peace hard won and infinitely precious. You know what I learned at 68, I ask. What's that? Like that forever isn't a length of time. It's a moment. This moment. Right now. With you. She squeezes my hand. The land stands peaceful. Warm light through the windows. The wedding tree standing guard. The truth was rooted in love. And love, it turns out, can survive anything. Even death. Age is just a number. Life is what you make of it. And me, I'm 68 years old and I'm just getting started. The redwoods stand eternal witnesses to everything, our love, our loss, our betrayal, our redemption. They've seen it all, and they'll stand long after Blair and I are gone. But right now, on this November evening with my wife beside me, our land thriving and the truth finally free, right now we're here. We're alive. We're together. And that, I've learned, is everything. Looking back at this family story, I see a man who almost lost everything because I didn't ask the hard questions. Don't be like me. Don't wait until a stranger hands you a blue box to start paying attention to the people you love. God gave me 40 years with Blair, and I spent too many of them comfortable, complacent, blind. The first time I truly prayed wasn't in church. It was at midnight holding a dead woman's phone, begging God to make sense of the impossible. Sometimes He answers prayers in ways that break you before they heal you. This family story taught me that blood doesn't guarantee loyalty. Family betrayal comes from the people who know exactly where to cut deepest. Amber knew about those caves for 5 years. 5 years of smiling at Sunday dinners while plotting to sell our land to drug runners. Family betrayal isn't a stranger's knife. It's your daughter's hand on the blade. But here's what God taught me through all this pain: redemption is possible. Not easy, not quick, but possible. I'm 68 years old, rebuilding a marriage from ashes, running a conservation center, teaching woodworking to kids who call me grandpa. This family story didn't end with betrayal, it ended with choice. The choice to forgive, to rebuild, to trust again, carefully, wisely. Don't be like me. Ask questions. Protect what matters. And when family betrayal comes, because sometimes it does, remember that God's grace is sufficient even when your daughter sits in prison. What would you do in my position? Have you faced family betrayal? Share your story in the comments below. If this moved, you subscribe and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Your story matters too.